All right, we'll call the School Board of Directors meeting for September 13th, 2023 to order. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Ready? Begin. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, so I believe, yep, I can see Denise is on. So Denise, can you do a roll call vote for us, please?
Director Walper,
Here.
Director Berman, Director Shibahara,
Here.
Director Martinez,
Here.
Director Johnston,
Here.
Vice Chair Wheeler,
Here.
and Chair Rydell.
Here.
We have a quorum.
All right. Denise, was the meeting properly notified?
Yes, it was.
Thank you. So first up is a motion to approve or amend the agenda.
Chair Rydell, I move to approve the agenda.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand or say aye if you're remote.
Motion carries.
Thank you. All right, item C, Board of Directors reports. We'll start with Director Walper.
I have nothing.
Thank you, sir. Director Shibahara.
Just soccer season has started, and so that's of course really fun to see out on our new beautiful, second year field, and the chair, the protective, whatever seating is all installed and is amazing. And the boys team has won all 3 games so far, so they're definitely having a great start to the season. And the girls, each game are getting better, so that's good. One thing I noticed, and I did mention it to our athletic secretary or whatever, with soccer we have a really hard time with visitor section. It's not obvious where visitors should go, and they often end right where we, as home, want to be.
Yes.
And so it turns into this all mixed together and confusion. So I don't know if there's an opportunity to do better signage and such between home and visitors, especially at soccer. I think it's more obvious at football games. But anyway, just something that I've noted, and it was the same thing last year. We had the same issues. So, but it's exciting.
Good call. All right, Director Martinez.
Nope.
Vice Chair Wheeler.
Today I had the pleasure of joining a handful of Clackamas River Elementary parents and grandparents and families at the first breakfast of the year. I don't know if there was going to be more, but it was the first one. Yep. It was well thought out and planned. Instead of doing it like they've done in the past, where they do a big heat of K-12 or K2 and then 3-5, they had 3rd grade for 30 minutes, 4th grade, and then 5th grade. And so it was really well attended and, like I said, well organized. It was good seeing all the new faces and families there. Our very own Danny Randall was there, beating the Bond drum very well, like we've seen her out in the community several times. Yeah. And I can't wait to hear more Danny Randall. Anyway, it was just a good welcoming experience for everybody. So, and then of course youth football is kicked off. We're in week 6, which is hard to believe that we've been doing it for 6 weeks already. 130 plus kids, which is 15 more than we had last year, and it just keeps growing. So lots of success at the youth ranks, and hopefully to continue to help fuel the high school program later on in life here. So all things are good.
Awesome. A couple quick things. So again, high school football, like high school soccer, is kicked off and rolling. So week 1 we were in K Falls against Mazama, which is a tough task if anybody's played Mazama, and had a chance to win at the end, lost by 6. And then last week we hosted Scappoose, who we knocked out of the semifinals last year, so they were inspired to play well and did play well. Had a rough first half, went into the half down 23-0, and then rallied in the second. We ended up losing 18-23. So again, a good resurgence by the varsity team. So we are at LeGrand this Friday, and then next Friday hosting Tillamook, who most people will know. That's who we knocked off in the state title game last year. So again, there will be some inspired football a week from this Friday here in Estacada. So And then High School Musical is starting to kick off. It's amazing how quickly that happens. And so the cast list, I think, has been identified and out. They're starting to work on that. So Beauty and the Beast will be in January sometime. So check your local listings and feel free to come out and support the Estes High School Music and Theater Program. And I forgot Director Johnston, because I do that every time we have somebody that is remote. So Director Johnston, do you have a report for us, please?
Being remote, I'll pass. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. All right, let's move on to district reports. So first up, Communications Department, Maggie Kelly and Danny Randall, come on down.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So tonight in communications, some of our projects that are in progress right now. First of all, I want to just say thank you to Josh for doing such a great job of the productions in the stadium as we get that back up and rolling. We've also hired a couple of student interns, which is a great opportunity for them to take charge of some of this process as well. And we put on a pretty good show, and we've been able to utilize it to start to communicate some of our bond campaign as well, which has been exciting. We are recruiting for committees, and Danny will have a breakdown of some of the by the numbers work that we've been doing a little bit later, but right now we are really in a phase of recruiting for 4 key committees throughout this bond process. So we've been making some progress over the past week or two. We've been really focused on making sure that our staff are really clear on what this bond would do and that they're confident in this. And this week, next week, and as many weeks as we can see in the future, we'll be really turning our focus to the community. But we've done some great town halls with our staff and have had the opportunity to speak in person, face-to-face with our staff. Ryan has done an excellent job of ensuring that our staff know what a bond would do for their school and have a firm understanding of that so they can help us communicate this message out. We've also done a lot of community outreach events. I'll let Danny cover that a little bit more, and really just focused on the start of our information campaign. We've been putting out flyers, postcards, door hangers on cars, houses, just all over the place. So it's been a fun opportunity, and we're starting to see momentum pick up.
Yes, my daughter brought one home for me. She's like, Mom, look what's on my car.
On the windshield.
Oh, good. Well, thank
I
her
was
for
like,
me.
"Oh, cool." I'm like, thanks for sharing.
So some completed projects, our back-to-school communication went really well. I said this last year as well, but each year continues to get a little bit quieter with our back-to-school and a little bit smoother, so I think we're getting in routines pretty well. And then lastly, our community park series was incredibly successful. Danny, again, will have more numbers on that, but it was a great foundation to start meeting some folks. We met people that we had never seen at events before, and we actually had people sign up for email lists, sign up for testimonials, and just get involved in a segment of the population that we have previously not been able to reel into events. So that was one of the successes that I wanted to highlight. So I'll turn to Danny with some of the numbers.
All right. Community outreach. So as Maggie said, we have been working on gathering folks to join committees for the bond, or at least to discuss the aspects of the bond. At this moment, we have 30 people that have signed up to be on the committee. We obviously are looking for more. We will be continuing that outreach. With that, we have been passing out flyers, door hangers that have all of the committees listed and how they can sign up for it and information on the bond. The communications team, just last week, we put 750 door hangers on all of the communities within the school area, the residential areas, so that's been successful, and it sounds like people are reading them and coming back to us. We were even mentioned at the city council meeting because of it, so I was happy to see that the word's getting out. Testimonials, like Maggie said, we've been reaching out to people to come in and have videos where they're showing support for the school district itself, whether that's for a bond or just saying that they trust us or talking about construction. We're really getting a vast list of people that kind of can pinpoint different areas of concern. Community conversation series. This is something that we're just jumping into. We closed off the park series. Now we're going to transition into community events that are more inside for the season. So that's going to start off with Whispering Pines next week. We're going to join Director
Superintendent Carpenter, that's embarrassing, to reach out to them. Then we're going to hit the city council meeting the following week, and we are setting up times at the Moose Lodge, Community Center, all of those places, again, to see people that we don't typically see here on campus. We're going to be at the Oktoberfest, if you guys want to stop by and see us there. I've been at some elementary events, like Ben said. We're at the Springwater Community Fair this weekend. Home football games, we're going to learn from last home game, and this next one we're going to have a little bit more signage, a little bit bigger, maybe ask us about a potential bond so we can get a little more conversation flowing. But there was some conversation last time, and we have raffle items to raffle off, so it's always nice to get people in. With the raffle items and the raffle itself, we got over 200 emails from the park series, so it's a really great way for us to kind of keep in connection with the folks in the community. And like I said, canvassing neighborhoods, so we hit the streets and we walked around, and that worked out really well for us, and we'll continue to market in that way. So that's it. Any
Any
questions?
questions?
No questions, but a comment. Just don't forget about District 1. I know we're a small community, but I haven't seen anything in Eagle Creek, so I would
Okay.
really want to see some mailers at the very least in our community.
We've ordered mailers. We have 6,200 mailers that will be in your mailboxes Friday or Saturday this week. With our rural community, we really got to depend on those mailers and the yard signs. Yeah.
All right.
So let me know if you don't get them by this weekend.
All right, I will. Thanks.
Noted. Thank you.
When are the yard signs going to be available?
Yard signs, we're getting them in this Friday, and we have a wide variety for people to choose from. So we're actually also going to open up an online store where people can order them online, and we will deliver them to doors. So,
Oh, wow.
yeah,
That's pretty slick.
making it as easy as possible for folks.
Maggie, to one of your points about kicking off the school year, I know Ken, Rochelle, and I were here in the previous regime, and I remember some rocky first weeks. And it was when we started as school board members, and there was some things that happened. I don't know if we were proud of, but we've moved on from that. And so I can honestly say that we are doing way better with the first weeks of school. It's much smoother. All the communication is obviously helpful, but the process itself, buses,
Yeah.
kids getting dropped off at home, and all the things that matter. So it was good job.
It's a credit to so many departments. Like you said, transportation is really rocking it. Nutrition services, I think everyone is doing a good job to make it smoother. So thank you.
Yeah. I echo that, so I won't repeat it all, but
So these committees, do you have now like a plan of like meetings specifically and things like that, or?
Yeah, I'll talk that a little bit more. So next week is our final week of recruiting people for the committees. We're just a little under what we want it to be. And then the following week, we're going to reach out to all of those people and find our target time. They're going to meet bi-weekly, so twice a month. And then we'll hope to find a time that accommodates the most people as possible that have signed up for those specific committees.
And will you name the title of those committees again and what their purposes are?
Yes, so we have the site committee, we have the educational use committee, that's how we're gonna divide up grade levels, what we need in the buildings to facilitate learning. We have our community use committee, that's gonna talk about, do we want field space or do we want a pool? Do we want a performing arts area? So community use. And then we have our finance committee, which we are still looking for people on that finance committee. And then those four committees will filter up to a oversight that will report directly back to the board. So really those four committees: finance, community use, educational use, and site.
How does the board get involved with any of those, or what does that look like?
Ideally, we'd like to have one or two, because we have the four committees, we'd like to have one or two board members on each committee. You can sign up on estacataschoolbond.org, or you can just shoot us an email and let us know your preference, and we'll make sure you guys are kind of
I
distributed
think we'll
amongst.
probably assign,
Or I was gonna say, or be voluntold by Superintendent Carpenter,
Yes.
which committee we're
Yeah,
supposed to be
we
on.
can,
I'll take the finance committee.
thank you for volunteering for that committee.
We assumed.
Yeah, we will divide them up amongst you.
So how many people are you looking to recruit now?
So we're hoping to get between 10 and 15 people for each committee. That's an ideal committee size. We're sitting at about 8 or 9 for each committee. finance is a little low. So we still need about 5 people for each committee ideally.
You're well on your way.
Yeah, we're about halfway there. We're pleased. And we also opened it up to our staff as well. We want representation of staff, and staff have been taking us up on that also, especially in that educational use committee. So we're about halfway there. One thing that I should mention also is one thing that I've been excited to see in these committee signups is I've seen names of community members that I've never heard before. I've had people say that they don't have kids in school anymore, but they want to have a pulse on what's going on. So that tells me that with these committees, we are reaching a broader audience than we've seen in the past, which I'm happy about.
And that mailer, which comes either Friday or Saturday, is all about committee recruitments as well. And so hopefully we'll touch people that have no affiliation to us whatsoever.
We have a QR code on it, so we're able to track how many people are scanning it, and we launched our new bond website. We have a tracker on that for our traffic as well, and we've had over 650 views on it so far.
Excellent. Thanks.
Okay,
Right.
thank you.
Thank you. All right, next up, Building and Facilities Report, Mr. Mike Ware.
Okay, good evening. I need to do one quick refresh. Let's just make sure. Okay. For your operations report tonight, to start off with our capital improvement projects. Specifically, our River Mill seismic upgrade project. We did complete this project as scheduled, so substantial completion was the end of August. And we did meet that deadline. As you probably have seen and or may have heard, if you walked into that building 3-4 weeks prior to the end of August, you would have said, no way, this is not going to happen. And we were very successful in completing this project. We had to go through some bumps, and we were able to support our teachers as well as our administrators through a few different things. But day one, we had students in a safer learning environment that included LED lighting, new drywall, new ceiling grids, and the majority of the main building. So if you had a chance to, or have had a chance to walk through there, you'll notice it just feels bigger, it's lighter, it's more welcoming. And we're very, very pleased with the project, pleased with the contractors to finish the project within, I think it was about 55 working days. We do have some minor additional projects that are going to be completed through the month of September and October. We are going to be looking at some exterior work as well as some other things that we can tack on under the grant requirements. So some more things that are not going to impact teaching and learning, but again, they're going to help address some of this cosmetic needs as well as just some structural needs within the building. So very excited. EHS seismic project, really looking forward to a discussion this evening about our procurement process and relating to the seismic project. The RFP did close late in August, or early September rather, and again, I know we're going to be having a further discussion more about that. Oh, by the way. So again, as the theme has been, it's been a very smooth start of the school year, and I wanted to highlight some data that we pulled from previous year to this year. So average number of students in 22-23 that we transported was just over 859 students. This year, we're transporting just about 981 students on average on a weekly basis. So we're seeing that swell of capacity within our schools as well as capacity in our buses and the number of students, and still serving 750 square miles within our district. Ticket requests, so this is help desk tickets, so our IT department has received 1,534 tickets last year this time. We're at 1,700 and plus. Again, that's a department of 3 full-time FTE and 1 department director who also supports the tickets. So if you do the math, that's not very many employees to students and staff ratio. So very excited, and again, go and attest to how smooth we've been running. Our teachers, our students still have the technology resources they need. We're able to operate, we have enough devices, and we have some more as a healthy inventory. This one's pretty cool. Our start of school year data with meals provided in school year 2022. We provided at CRE 2465 total meals, that's breakfast. I'm sorry, 1735 total meals, that's breakfast and lunch. You can see down the list at River Mill, it's 1763, middle school, 1281, and at the high school, 759. This year, at this time, we are serving just over 2,400 at CRE, a little bit over 2,500 at River Mill, 2,360 at the middle school, and 1,866 at the high school. And you can see the differences. This is something that we very much celebrate. And, you know, we're trying to pinpoint some key points to why this is happening. And I think there's a couple things to factor in, is that we are providing nutritious food, healthy food, food that our students want to eat and consume. We also noticed the fact that it costs around $4 for a Lunchable at the store, where our lunch is about $3.25. And so it's convenient. And here's a couple pictures that you can see of some of our salad bar walk-ups at our high school. So we're seeing an influx, and it's a good problem to have. That also means a higher reimbursement, because we are at 48% of free and reduced numbers as well. So again, this is a great win, but also an area to highlight with our data and the number of students that we're seeing within our district, and the increase.
I have a question about menus. Like,
Yeah.
how is that decided, and do students provide input, or
Yeah.
what's that look like? I'm just
Historically,
curious.
we have reached out and done open forums with students, and I know we did it last year. Our nutrition services department, in a collaborative effort, create a 4-month menu, and they do it kind of by seasons. But we do add flexibility and ability to make changes based off product availability, what's going on in terms of what's available, obviously, and what's working and what's not working. We do reach out and get feedback from our students on what kind of meals they want to see within the realms that we can afford, and if it's within NSLP, our National School Lunch Program requirements.
Yeah, and has the cost gone up significantly?
Costs have gone up, yes. Yeah, we're seeing, I mean, as you see it everywhere across the industries, the costs are going up.
So I was curious on the cost for the lunch. Is that all encompassing? Does that include the labor going into it?
That's what we get reimbursed, yes, by the state. And so we naturally are a little bit over in our cost for nutrition services because of the reimbursement rate is supposed to cover the meal and our wages within that department. We tend to, if we're operating read days, things like that, we try to work out ways with Christina and Superintendent Carpenter. Superintendent Carpenter.
You've been demoted.
Yeah, sorry about that, my apologies.
I'm going to give that superintendent a great evaluation.
Yes. Superintendent Carpenter on making sure that we have enough to cover if we go into the red. Our goal is to always stay neutral and even try to go black in this department, but it's very difficult with the how much food costs these days, labor and whatnot.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And that is my report for tonight. Any questions?
I got one regarding buses. Going back to the budget planning, March to May, we had talked about reducing the budget by 5 or 10% because we thought we were getting less from the state. And part of that hack was getting rid of the 2 buses per year. Is that, am I remembering everything right?
You're saying that just correctly. However, because there was new funding, the state funded at 10.2 instead of 9.9, we are back to purchasing the buses.
Okay, so we're back on the bus
Yep.
track?
Yep.
Or sticking with it?
Yep.
And so, at what point this year will we see those new buses?
Well, we need to go through the grant process through DEQ, and we would see the buses, ideally, and what we have to have is the product on site, if you will, by the end of the fiscal year. We had an exception, I think, last year because of COVID. We had a lot of delays, and we didn't get the bus till later on the following fiscal year, but our requirement is to have it on district site by the end of the fiscal year.
And are we at a point now where we need to utilize new buses, or?
We're not there yet, but the discussion is happening. I mean, as we see influx, our buses, as we know, we're trying to phase some of the older ones out, the smaller ones out, and bring in, but we've had to address some of the, smaller buses to help assist with ADA access. And so we need to continue with this bus replacement plan and start talking about and discussing what does 2 years down the road, are we gonna need to go up higher? What does that look like as we start serving more students?
Currently, as far as the additional students, Are we seeing any routes busting at the seams where we're gonna have to double back?
Not at the moment. I mean, up here in cemetery area and Campanella area, we are seeing, I mean, it's just houses bumping everywhere. And so we've had to add a few stops, which does take time, but we're able to do it. No double back at the moment, but again, this is, you know, it's coming up, and we need to be prepared, whether it's looking at staffing and busing or additional busing for more capacity.
And have we also thought about the radius of where we're picking up and not picking up? I know
Yes.
It's been a conversation over the years that we've been able to accommodate, but I'm assuming at some point in time, we're gonna run out of capacity.
I would say over the last 2 years, we've been working really hard with our families and communicating what our policy is and what we get reimbursed for. And so we've been doing a very good job of that 1.5 miles for secondary and 1 mile for elementary, as long as there's safe walking paths to the school or to the bus stop.
Okay.
Yep.
I think at this point, the only exception is across the highway on, what is that, River Shore, Lake
Yeah,
Shore?
Lake Shore.
That's within the bubble, but because we don't want the kids crossing that highway, we are picking that up.
Yeah.
But I think other than
That-
that, we've pushed it all the way back
Yeah,
already.
we've done, our transportation department, our leadership has done a really good job communicating our policy and expectations.
Yep. Director Johnson has a question. Director Johnson has a
Yeah, I
question.
think Director Johnston has a question.
Mike, I was just curious, 48% qualify. What percentage of our population have submitted the free and reduced lunch forms, or do we use direct certification of some kind? And do we know what population has submitted the information?
I don't have that answer, but I can get that back.
I've got
Oh, you
it.
have that? Go ahead.
Yeah, I do. We know that through tax data, the Department of Education data, and some other sources of information, 66% of the students inside our school district qualify for free and reduced lunch. However, only 48% of that 68% at this point has actually done the necessary paperwork to fulfill that. So, but 66% are eligible. And one other thing, just for note, in the future, they're trying to move away from everyone filling out that form, and now they're starting to work towards those who qualify and apply for the food stamps, or it's the Oregon, I don't know what it's called these days. SNAP is what it's called these days. But that's problematic also, because that will not fully reflect who is eligible for free and reduced also, because a lot of families who we know are eligible for free and reduced lunch, their families choose not to participate in the SNAP or food stamp programs. And so ultimately, there will be some other barriers that come with that change over the course of the next couple of years.
And Mike, I'd just like to call out, again, those numbers on the increased meals, because we're talking about Cisco later on here, right? But, I mean, it's cheaper for me to buy meals for my kids at school than it is
Yes.
for me to make them at home.
Correct.
Or at least the same, right?
Absolutely,
So I can tell you from a community member standpoint and a family standpoint, it's very much appreciated that we're able to keep those costs down, because more than ever, it's a necessity to find affordable meals, even for those that don't qualify for any program. So, very much appreciated.
Thank you.
One other comment, because we're at 48%, what is it, at 51%? We're only 3% away from the entire school district getting free meals. And so we're working hard right now to try to get to 52% of the 66% that we know that are eligible. There's some pros and cons with a full district being free. But we're right there, and as much as the data tells us that our food services are being utilized right now, if we could just find that 3 or 4%, that might ease the burden for a lot of other things, including more reimbursement in our direction.
Okay. Other questions for Mike? All right,
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Finance and Accountability Report, Christina Irish.
Good evening. Here to share with you our financials for month ending August 31st. Our total resources, we're projecting about $45.1 million. You can see there that our adjustment to the state school fund with our new $10.2 billion, we're estimating just over $1 million for that adjustment. For expenditures, we are estimating about $39.2 million. This will leave us with an ending fund balance of $5,898,000, which is 15%. Any questions? Okay, next here is our graph showing currently we're at encumbrance and year-to-date expenditures at 88.8% for our instructional services and 81.2% for our support services. And we're estimating to spend 100% of our other uses, which is our transfers. For our capital projects, we're estimating resources or revenue of $879,000, expenditures of $761,000, and an ending fund balance of about $118,000. Any questions on that? And then I'm going to share with you our ESSER 3. This is our final year for the ESSER funds. I'm showing here, you can kind of see year one, we did spend 1.2 million. Last year, we spent 344,000, and we have 534,000 left to spend this year. And you can see there, we have a tentative plan that we are sharing with you, and then going to share with the state. Going to continue with contracted services for CNAs or nursing services, summer school, our access control, which is our security cost. We have putting in there additional curriculum for our added enrollment. And then we are still looking, we're still looking at an adult transition program building space. We're looking still at indoor air quality, seeing what that would cost. Read day meals, again, we might kind of talked about that. That is not a reimbursable cost through the state, so we are paying for that out of here. And then our individual communication systems or our Vocera costs came out of here. And then the one other thing is the portable for River Mill, the new portable that we're going to be adding. Any questions or discussion over ESSER 3?
How are we looking with the adult transition program? I don't know if that's appropriate for this conversation, but.
Sure. We've got 9 students in the program to start the school year. They have moved back into the high school culinary arts room, which is ideal for some of the life skills things that we're hoping to teach, but not ideal in some other factors, like a lot of these students wish to not be in the high school anymore because peers of their age have now exited the high school and they want to do that as well. We were partnering with, Jason had done a great job of getting the Clackamas ESD to partner with us and co-op, and so they were intending to bring 19 additional adult transition students into that facility from school districts all over Clackamas County. Unfortunately, even though the administration of ESD said let's do it, as soon as the teachers came from LEAP is the program that it goes through, as soon as they came in and they realized that the classroom was going to have 20-25 students in it with very significant challenges, they chose not to participate at that location, and it was a very last minute decision. And so we've got 9 of our own students. We're getting going. We've got a lot of work to do to renovate that program. One of the things that Jason Hobson and I met about today was how can we start providing work opportunities for these students. I would like to see them get actual jobs and just show up to classes Tuesdays and Thursdays hypothetically, but have some form of employment where they actually receive a paycheck and support them towards the real world. And so we're in transition when it comes to that still. The long-term plan, though, is for us to have some type of permanent space for them that is kind of half classroom, half house, so that they can do the things that they need to do from a life skills perspective, but then also do some type of job opportunities, up to and including, I've been thinking about how we hire summer student workers in the summertime. Maybe is there something that we can do throughout the winter, fall, even athletic events, or serving meals, janitorial work? Like, there's some things I think that we could compensate and hire them as employees while still being students. But this is where we're at as of today, actually, trying to figure out how best to make this a great program. Yeah.
Is the program that's in the culinary, are there high school students in there as well?
No, there's some helpers, but no, there is only students who are 18 years to 21 years old in there now.
I'd like to revisit just what kind of support we have again
Yeah.
This year.
Yeah.
For that population.
Yeah.
At both high school, middle school,
Agreed.
and elementary.
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
Great question.
Next is our updated enrollment as of August 31st. Kind of already touched on this. As a school district, we're at 1,956, which is up 44 from last year at this time, and up 85 from the last month from our final count at the end of last school year. With the charter school, we're at 3,208, which is up 124 from last year at this time. Keep in mind the charter schools numbers are what they're projecting enrollment, because as of August 31st, they were not in school yet. So very excited about that. And then, oops, wrong way. There is our fun little chart where we keep climbing up. Gonna have to drop off some years because it's getting smaller and smaller the higher we go. And that is all the information I have for you today. Any other questions?
Questions for Christina?
Christina, can you go back one slide where it shows the breakdown class by class?
Mm-hmm.
Do we predict that kindergarten class to grow from where we're at right now?
No.
So we're kind of, I don't want to say at the peak right now, because next year could always change, but
Yeah.
looking at our fourth grade, fifth grade, and
That's the
then,
lowest number all the way up to 11th grade.
yeah. And again, it can change, but it's kind of nice to see that there might be a little bit of a crest for some growing pains,
Yep.
hopefully.
Yeah, we'll see, but yeah, right now, of who's showed up so far, it does appear that way, yeah.
Thank you.
Anything else? And Christina, is there anything not discussed or shown in the financial report that we need to be aware of?
No.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. All right, item E, superintendent's report.
Yeah, thank you. The directors did a phenomenal job, and that's the lion's share of what we've been working on since the start of the school year. I am pleased with the start of the school year. I think we are truly off to one of our smoother starts, knock on wood. The honeymoon period is over, though, and life and reality is starting to set in. I do want to let the board know that we are beginning to see an increase in some of our students who experience challenging behaviors. Of the 44 new students that you're seeing, the majority of them have come in either with some type of special education plan or are in the process of some form of special education. The great thing, but also the challenging thing too, is 5 of the new students inside our school district, some of whom are in higher level grades than just kindergarten, first or second grade, are experiencing their first time in education ever. And so the good news is we are trying to welcome every child who comes through our doors. The challenging part is there are some kids who have spent the first 8, 9, 10 years of their life with no educational setting whatsoever. And so how to properly behave, how to learn, how to go through routines have been challenging from both sides. And so that's something that our team is looking into aggressively as we try to make sure that all classrooms are safe, everyone has an opportunity to learn, but also everyone has an opportunity to access the general education classroom to the extent that they're ready for. And so we are starting to take some students out of the general education population for the maximum time and placing them in spots where we can start to develop more behavioral specific opportunities. One of the things that we're looking into also is we have a lot of our paraeducators that double in duties, where not only are they serving some of our most complex students, but they also monitor recess, or they monitor lunch times, or they monitor getting students on and off the buses. And that's problematic for us in a couple of reasons, but most importantly, when they have to go do recess duty, that's taking them away with working closest with some of our most complex students. And so we are going to be starting an aggressive campaign really in the next couple of weeks to try to hire some recess and lunch monitors. It'll be a lower paying wage. It'll be a 3-hour position, but hopefully we're trying to find maybe some moms or at-home dads or some people who are just kind of looking for a 2 or 3 hour gig where they could be at their child's school, maybe earn a couple of dollars and help us with the supervision of playground, bus, and lunches, allowing our professional paraeducators to work with our students that need that service the absolute most. And so that's one of the changes that we're working towards from that. Any questions that I can answer there, maybe from a board perspective? That may be something that's on the topic of conversation in the community. Okay.
When you say that you're might be putting them in a place to help get them comfortable with being at school and learning and stuff like that, what does that mean and what does that look like? Do we have staff already available and
we do.
Places already available?
Yep, for sure. And so, but that room and space is diminishing with growth, particularly in our elementary schools and some of the things that we're facing. And so hypothetically, although this happens daily, is there are a couple of classrooms where the learning specialists inhabit throughout the day, and students all day long, because of either their individual plan or just behaviorally because they're just not equipped yet to spend a full day in a classroom, they come in and they get those supports, and paraeducators transport them, and that ebbs and flows throughout the day. The problem is, though, is we're trying to create these environments where there are safe spaces. So when a kid is at the limit and is now, communicating through tantrum that, they're not ready to learn or they're not in that routine, we have great safe spaces where these kids can go and get back into the learning modes again. De-escalate is a better way of saying that. The problem is right now we're experiencing 3 or 4 kids escalating at the same time. And when you've got 2 or 3 people in there who are excited to throw things around like that, feeds off of each other. And so where we're limited in space is the ability to separate and work through that from that level. And so those are some examples of the complexities of what we're trying to work through. But our team is doing a stellar job, and we're really trying to build the airplane as we fly it. And I'm proud of them, but we've got work to do when it comes to that. As the communications department has shared, it's been a pleasure to go around our school district already in the first couple of weeks to talk about what a bond would look like. In order for us to be successful in any type of bond campaign, it is paramount to have our employees support for that and a deep understanding of how this would support the future of Estacada schools and support their professional trajectory as they do things professionally with students in new age and updated classrooms. And so I've just had some great questions and some great enthusiasm behind that. My last 2 things that I just want to communicate first is with growth at, if you look at the student data at Rivermill Elementary School, we had to make an emergency decision to add an additional 5th grade class. So there are now 4 5th grade classes at Rivermill based on growth. 97 kids in that class, and so we had to temporarily displace our music teacher, and I want to commend Daniel Sizowitz as our Rivermill music teacher. He's been a great team player, and we've displaced our elementary school music classes into a portable while we put the 5th grade class into that music classroom in order to keep our 5th grade team together and that core group together so they can exchange kids based on ability for math and reading, etc. And so we have just pulled the trigger metaphorically speaking, on purchasing an additional portable, which we do expect to be on our campus within the next couple of months. It's a used portable. We got it at a very good deal, but at the same time, new portables are about $300,000. We are paying $25,000 for this portable. And so when it arrives on campus, I just want to communicate to the board and to the community listening that it will look like a $25,000 portable. And so we are going to need to take some time to put some siding on it, re-roof it, turn it into a safe and great classroom, which we fully intend to do. But we do hope to have our music program back in its place at around winter break, and we hope to have the 5th grade group there. It's going to be located, if you can imagine, the River Mill Annex. There's a little strip of grass and what used to be kind of a community garden as you kind of enter in between the auto shop of the high school and the annex of River Mill Elementary School. I do want to communicate with the board in case the community has quarrels with how we have to get this portable in there. We're going to need to remove 3 trees along the fence line, and we're going to have to remove the fence and replace the fence as we put a new portable in that space. I'm unaware if that, and this is why I just wanted to communicate to you and the community, it is possible that somebody in a class in 1968 or 1972 planted those trees. We want to honor that, and we're going to make sure that we're going to replace those trees with our current 5th grade class. Once everything's established, we will replant those trees with the next group of people, but growth is necessary. We have to start putting portables in places that have never been before to handle this growth, and this is just one of the consequences of that. But it's a decision that we took very seriously, and we're going to try to be good stewards of our history as well as working through this growth.
And Ryan, just to call out too, this isn't the first time that we've rehabbed a portable.
Yes,
So
you're right.
The
Rufus room.
Rufus room.
Yep.
Was in rough shape.
Yes.
And so as a district, instead of, again, spending $300,000 to buy a new portable, we're able to rehab that, and it's currently in
Excellent.
use and is
Yes, it
completely
is.
functional.
It's
and you would-
serving kids as we
It
speak.
does not look like the same one that it was. So just to ease any fears of, oh my gosh, is it really going to be nice? It's going to be nice. It'll be highly functional, and
Yep.
you will never know what it looked like prior to putting students in it.
That is correct, and thank you so much for saying that. And lastly, your superintendent report, we're in ongoing negotiations with our classified OSEA collective bargaining group. We took about a month and a half off, really just because of summer schedules and making sure that everybody was available to participate. And so just this last week, we all kind of collectively got back on the horse after a month and a half break. Things are going very well in terms of the back and forth communication. I do believe that they're productive. We are still far apart when it comes to compensation, but we are very close when it comes to other language portions of the contract. And so I do expect a positive resolution. It is going to take a little bit more time as we go back and forth and try to find the right solution, but our district is committed to ensuring that we all have livable wages. We're committed to giving cost of living increases, but trying to settle on what's appropriate is still where we're at. But I've been very pleased at the respectfulness and the productivity of those conversations, and I'm optimistic that we're going to come to a solid resolution where both sides win. We're being good stewards of taxpayer dollars while still paying our folks a good competitive wage. And that's your superintendent's report.
Awesome. Questions for Ryan?
Yeah, I've got one. Since we're talking about quantity of students, I was curious, how many students do we have here that are not within that 700-mile radius or square miles that we've got? I know we've got 44 over now.
Yeah.
And I know there's students out there that want to come to this school that
Yeah.
are not in,
Right.
because we're doing such a good job.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I'm just kind of curious.
Yeah, I can't tell you a specific number. I can tell you 5% of Colton's entire student population has transferred to the Estacada School District over the summer. We have several students who are either have made it happen or are trying to make it happen from the Sandy School District who are living on our boundaries or close to come into Estacada. And we're in double digits now of students from the Oregon City School District who are transferring to Estacada schools as well. All of them have done so legally, which is within compliance of policy, and so we don't have the ability to say necessarily no, because our policy allows for that to happen, and they've gone through the intra-district transfer where the home district has released them from that process. That being said, I do think your question deserves some merit, and that is that regardless of if students live in our 750 square mile boundary or if they live in a different school district, if they've been approved, which all of them have, to be a part of our district, we get to count them as a part of our income. And so we earn roughly $9,000 per student if they're not in special education. And so even the students who do not live inside our boundary, we still get compensation for that. So the Estacada local taxpayers are not funding the burden of an Oregon City kid coming in here. The state still pays us just the same for those that are coming. So it's all in the pot together. And I know if that's not what you're asking, but I wanted to clarify that too. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
Other questions for Ryan? All right. Will, any questions? Director Johnston?
No, I'll raise my hand if I do. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, on to item F, reports and presentations. We have the ELD report, and I believe we have Jen Berman here to present that to us. Come on down.
Good evening.
Good
I'm
evening.
Jennifer Berman, Director of Teaching and Learning this school year. It's nice to be here. So I am here to report on our English learners in Oregon, which is our ODE report. And I want to be very clear because it gets a little confusing as I go through this, that this is for the 21-22 school year. So it takes that long to get all of our data entered, verified, and approved by the state, and then they send us that final report in June of 23 for us to report to you for that school year. So I'll try to remind you of that as we go through some of the data. We have this report because it's just an opportunity for us to kind of highlight what is happening in our state with our English learners, what the demographics are, what programs we have, how our funds are being allocated for them. And I think it's just a good way of keeping it relevant and keeping it an important part of our community, as this is a big program. And while it does feel interesting that it's 2 years late, I still think it's really important that we continue to talk about what we're doing for our students, especially in this category in our programs. Some highlights from the report of the 21-22 school year. There was 546,726 students enrolled. Side note for Estacada, 124 of those were ours. And along with those students, we have some percentages of the current English learners. There was 7% of those, 10% of those were our current English learners. 7% were our former, that means they've exited the program through ELPA testing. And then the 81% you'll hear often is the never English learners, so people who are not in the program. What was really neat about that population in 21-22 is it was a very diverse population that really brought in that rich linguistic and cultural heritage to our classrooms in our schools, and we experienced that here in Estacada as well. And we also saw a decline in our recent arrivers that year, probably coming out of COVID. A lot of them maybe had not returned back to school fully at that point in time. You will see, because I've already seen a sneak peek of the following year, that it does begin to increase again, but there was a reduction in our recent arrivers for that year. I wanted to talk about, I think the report is very extensive, and it is on our website. It's pages and pages of things, but there's 3 big things that I wanted to highlight here because those are also things that we track through our data dashboard and are important to us as we support all our students. So for attendance, with our statewide data, you'll see those graphs there, the current English learners versus former, those students who have exited, and then the never English learners. As you can tell, that's a pretty low percentage statewide. For Estacada, we were also not that high either, although we did beat some of the state averages. Our K-5 was at 70%, middle school was at 78, and high school was at 78.1% there. Again, I think coming out of COVID, our percentages were less, especially with some of these students and some of the things that were impacting families at that time. To give you just kind of perspective, our current enrollment last week was in the 90s. So that's how much we did see a decline that year and how much I feel like it's already improved in the next few years.
Hey, Jen.
Yeah.
Can you explain to me what Never English Learners are?
Never English Learners are kids that were never in an English learner program.
But they have Spanish or another
No.
language as their...
Nothing at all. So it's basically showing you the difference between students who were identified and students who were not identified. So
But those
typically your
students
white
are in... Oh,
population.
okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I know it's a different language.
Okay.
They were
I
just
wanted to
never
make sure.
English learners in the programs.
So
Yeah.
the non-program population.
Like my
Right.
kids are never English
Right,
learners.
right, I'm
Yes.
getting that, okay. I just, I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Although, anyway.
Yeah. And you're going to see too, you're going to see the ever English learners, which is the combination of the current and former. So there's lots of terminology that, yeah.
Thanks for asking that.
Can you explain the current versus the former? What's the exiting process, or what is?
So to exit and not be a current, so you become a current through our screener process. So if any family enrolls, they have to fill out a language survey. And if any language besides English is the primary language in the home, we do a ELPA screener, and that qualifies them for our program. When you're in the program, you get all of our services that we provide. At elementary, we have our Language for All program, and then at middle and high school, we have a pull-out and a push-in program. To exit our program, you have to be proficient in the ELPA test. It's called ELPA summative. You have to have a 4 or 5 in listening, speaking, reading, and writing. And that will get you an exit ticket in a sense. And then you go on monitor, which is 4 years of us just making sure that you're really proficient in those standards and that you are going to be successful, and then you formally exit that monitor program. So those former kids are all the students that have exited through our ELPA summative.
So the ELPA testing could happen at any level, grade level,
We do it every year.
every year.
Every year, yep. We have a window, just like SBAC, the Smarter Balance Test. We have a window of time where we have to screen every single student who is in the program. Even if they've refused services, we still have to test them. Yeah,
How does that monitoring process work? You said 4 years?
it is 4 years, yep.
So if they fall back into the program, does the 4 years start again, or?
Yeah, what's great about our processes and systems is our PLC process really helps support kids because we look at that data all the time. In fact, we were audited last year from the state with our EL program, and they looked at our monitoring program, which is our PLC process, and it was fully approved, and they liked the way that we monitored our students. And our dashboard that monitors proficiency, we have that breakout too that helps us to just keep track of them, make sure they're successful in their classes.
So if they don't exit that program before 8th grade, they're not gonna fully exit the program within the walls of the school district, is that right?
They can exit all the way up to senior year. Our
with the
goal
four-
is to try to get them to exit before elementary school. And we've been doing a really good job of that, but, because the system changes a little bit when they get into middle and high school.
But the 4-year monitoring is after they exit the program, so it's not.
Yes.
That's not in addition to the program. I mean, it's in addition, so you exit and then you're in the 4-year monitoring.
And then after the 4 years, you're a never English learner?
You're just not monitored anymore.
Okay.
You are still a former
I'm glad you're
English
keeping track
learner,
of
but
this.
you are not monitored anymore. It is a very complex program and system, but all in good intention of supporting our students.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Question?
Another question.
Okay.
What are the supported services that are being offered to the students that are part of the program? Like, what's
For
ongoing?
our current, the ones that are in our program. So K-5, we have our Language for All program, which is a push-in model where our English learning specialists push in with the gen ed teacher and really look at those English standards and work what we've found in the classroom with all kids, learning how to have those conversations, learn how to have complete sentences. There's a whole system and process, and they make it fun using science and social studies standards. We found we have really good data that shows that program's working, and we're exiting a lot of students within the 5 years of being in that program. And then when we also, if needed, give extra support. Like if they're struggling, we'll pull them out and do special things with our learning specialists. But we've found that our Language for All program has met the needs of our elementary students. When they get to middle school and high school, we have a combination of things that happen. They have a class, their EL class, where they actually are specifically taught the language standards, have that kind of support system as an actual class in their schedule. And then also our language specialists will then co-teach with, at middle school, it's science right now, to just bring in more of the vocabulary, the good sentence structure type pieces, and some really good strategies to help support English learners. And then in high school, it's a combination of all. They also have a pull-out class that's in their schedule where they get support at their language level, and then they also have support in some of their other classrooms as our specialists push in and support them.
I'm wondering, do we have special bilingual staff, or how are we students communicating with teachers, and are we have multilingual teachers?
We have some, not as many as I would love to have. They're very hard to find. In fact, we're trying to find a bilingual para right now because we hired a new person into the high school language, English specialist position, which left a vacancy in our para position. So we're feeling it when we don't have those people, but we do have some, and we use them to the fullest of our abilities. And we also have some really good programs and apps that help support teachers that aren't bilingual and supporting students. Any other questions? Okay. So looking at graduation for that year, 21-22, you can see the current percentage, which was at 65. That's a pretty low percentage for that group that year. Formers were at 86%, and never English learners were at 81%. But happy to announce that for Estacada, we had 100% graduation rate of our ever English learners, which is that combination of current and former. 18 out of our 18 students graduated. This does include standard, modified, and/or extended diplomas. So something to definitely be proud of.
Yeah.
Post-secondary, thanks to our great program at the high school right now with Alice Ann Bresco, she was able to give me some great data on our kiddos from this year as she's tracking how our students are doing post-graduation. So there's our state data. Again, that year it was pretty low of kids who were graduating and attending either a trade school or a college out of high school. For our kiddos, 14 of the 18 ever English learners attended a college or trade school, which was about 78%. And that's all I have for you. The full report is on the website if you need it, and also I'm also available if you have any other questions or would like to see our amazing program in action. Just let me know.
More questions for Jen? Awesome, thank you.
Thanks, Jen.
I will just reiterate too that this is not an anomaly that it's 2 years behind, it's always 2 years behind. So that's not an Estacada thing or a COVID thing, it's always 2 years behind,
It's
so.
a Department of
It
Education
is a
thing.
DOE. All right. Next up, discussion as to Decatur School District procurement processes.
Yes, I'm going to ask Mike Ware to come up, our Executive Director of Operations, and Christina can participate in this as well. And really, this was brought up, and I'm going to let Chair Idell, Director Martinez, and Vice Chair Wheeler kind of spearhead this conversation as well. But this came up in our agenda planning session, and that was really just reviewing our processes and protocols and how we do procurements, as well as brainstorming and being innovative in a way that we can make sure that our construction needs are seeing a wider audience to potentially attract more competitive bids, keeping prices down. And so I'll let the board leadership take over from here.
Yeah, thanks, and I'll pass it to Director Martinez here pretty quickly, but what really sparked it was the most recent seismic upgrade for the high school, and we ended up getting one person in the mix, right? I believe is the
One firm actually sent in or submitted a proposal.
And so then that's what sparked, what are we doing? What are we doing to be proactive to get that out beyond just the minimum? We post it, we do our thing, we let people submit. So I think we could, if we start there, is that?
Yeah, that pretty much.
Yeah, so part of our process is that we check those boxes, I guess, in the minimal things. We post in our newspaper, which is a requirement, as well as we post at Oregon Buys, which is an online platform, and that tends to send out to multiple firms based off the project. In the past, I won't say this time, but in the past, we have reached out to, if it was a contractor or a firm or whatever the goods or services that we're looking for that we've had good experience with or good relations, we've reached out and said, hey, we have this RFP or we're looking for a quote for services in this area, and we've been successful in finding the best product or the best service out there, in my opinion. In this particular example, when we posted on Oregon Buys, it did get sent out to about 25 different firms in the state, and we only had, unfortunately, 5 interested parties at the time. And then, as you alluded to, it kind of whittled down. 3 were very interested and showed interest. 2 attended our site visit, and only 1 actually submitted. And in this process, we did change our requirements in the RFP that if they did not attend, that they could still apply or submit their RFP, as one firm had asked for that. And so we opened that up for allowing those firms to come out. So.
Gotcha, okay. So what were you?
Well, I just wanted a little more comprehensive understanding of, what was the process internally, just because it seems like we're in a pattern that, whether it was this, or I think we've done a couple other projects, and it seems like the tendency is always one bidder.
Yeah.
And kind of the default is we
go to that one bidder.
We go to that one, and I don't think we're getting the best value for, so I'm wondering of how do we change that? How do we come up with creative ways of, what is it that aren't doing or thinking outside the box that would engage other contractors, especially if we're gonna continue to have, other projects come up eventually,
Yeah, I will say that, WRK and even Cedar Mill, the CMGC that did the River Mill seismic, have been great and met their mark and have been able to stay under budget. Cedar Mill is an outfit that I have not worked with personally, but they came highly recommended, and they have done a lot of good work for us and other districts. That being said, I think that, we can look at our systems and our processes for procuring more or widening our search. Being a smaller district, a little bit outside of the beaten path may hurt us, may not. And, I think one of the steps that we could look at is what do other districts do? Maybe our size, Canby, Malala, Sandy, even looking at North Clack or those bigger ones. How do they procure? How do they reach out? We did, when we went out to procure for McKinstry and that firm for our FCA, we got a direct recommendation from North Clack. So we felt comfortable with that recommendation, knowing that they're a big organization, and that they've done many bonds, lucky them, over the last few years to be able and have used this firm. So we felt confident. Did we get what we thought we were going to get from McKinstry or the service or product? Probably not. We were expecting a little bit more concrete information, and so that was a miss, I believe, in our process. So to answer your question, yes, we can be more creative. We can be definitely more innovative to widen our search to ensure that we are getting the best service or goods out there.
I think that would be helpful, and also just knowing a little bit about the industry is are there people that are not putting in bids because they just don't think they have a chance? I don't know how much of that really happens, but I definitely would want to look at other districts and what are they doing, just the best practices, right? And we may be right on the money, right? It could be exactly what we should be doing, but when we start seeing one bid come in, that's where it's like, is there something else that we can do? And not a judgment there, just a question, is there more that we can do to get creative?
I mean, it does help in the favor of a firm, which is the typical practice. They wrote the grant for the seismic grant. They just did a project with us. And so, yeah, they do have a good relationship with the district. Our process is still equitable, and we do have a selection committee when we take all things in consideration. And so, I mean, we know that that's the typical practice for firms, even like the Clash Group. They would want to be able to supply certain services so that they have a benefit chance or an advantage over other firms when we do go out, if we do go out for a bond, and needing project management services.
Sure.
And that is typical. Yeah. But fair to say as well. I mean, and I think most companies and contractors and firms know that's the case. And actually, I'm sorry, I'll give you an example where we did not do it. When we did Iceland Architects, I think it was Iceland or OSIS that did the grant for Rivermill seismic. They actually wrote that grant for the Rivermill seismic. They put in their paperwork and submitted the proposal. We did not choose them. We went with WRK because of the relationship that we thought we would have a better relationship and the experience from references and their experience. So OPSIS was the architectural firm. And so that's an example where we did not go to someone that we had a relationship with, but we just didn't feel like it was going to be a strong one moving forward.
And the other part that it would just be interesting to see is when we do the reviews of those proposals, looking at who's doing the reviews and what their experience level is and what the direction that they're giving as far as doing the reviews to be able to add value, added feedback, I think is something that it would just be interesting to take a look at.
Yeah.
And again, not to jump in the system, because that's not.
Sure.
I don't want to do it. I just want to understand it.
Yeah.
So that as I'm getting questions and we're getting questions from a board standpoint, what does that process look like? I think it'd be helpful for us to be able to understand that better.
Well, first, it sounds like you did volunteer, so we will talk to Superintendent Carpenter. Yeah, and Try Vice Chairman there. And we have done that with some of our board of directors because of their background and expertise. And again, we've brought up this example where we've brought in experts when we did the seismic project at the middle school. We brought in an expert that had the support and had the best interest of the district in mind. As we look at future projects, bond-related, non-bond-related, if we're doing an excavation project, who is a contractor that would have the best interest that may not be in the business anymore, but is a specialist or an expertise that can look at those figures and say, this doesn't look right. I wouldn't have done it this way. This seems a little, you're going to get change ordered the heck out of this project. And that's the things that we've talked and discussed early on, but as we get closer to a potential bond, if we go out and win, that is something I would like to have a further discussion on.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that was something like WRK did for us when we were doing our CMCG
Correct.
bids. They gave us that opinion on our.
Correct. Yeah.
So I think if really over the next month, maybe, just kind of looking at what other districts are doing and what other opportunities
Absolutely.
are out there, maybe just giving a quick rundown of here's some things we learned and
Yeah.
here's some things that we may want to look at
Absolutely.
adding. I think that'd just be helpful from an exposure standpoint for us.
Be happy to report back, yes.
Awesome.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say the same thing, just looking at what other school districts are doing and if that's something that we currently could, implement, or, if it's a third-party service that we end up hiring and to get more engagement would be nice, so that,
Absolutely.
looking at everything
Okay.
would be nice.
Absolutely. We're happy to report that back.
In the meantime, though, we still have a grant that is on a very tight timeline. And it's our intention to renovate Estacada High School's gymnasiums this coming summer. And so we are up against some urgency too in terms of how we select. Either we take this month to see what other school districts are doing, see if we could solicit more companies to bid, but at some point, we've got to go, only because we only have one off-season before the bid, or before the grant is virtually not usable, and this is a proposed cooling shelter. This is an opportunity for us to get rid of the green beams inside the high school potentially, and some other things. And so as hard as we'll work to really try to overhaul the system and improve on the other side of things, like we have to start moving on this too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
to put it into context, it's a $2.48 million project. Rivermill was 1.9, and this is a smaller footprint. I mean, our goal is to fold in multiple levels of projects. Can we look at, and I'm really serious, can we get rid of these beams? Do we want to be able to, I would love to be able to fold in our AC, our cooling center grant into this so we can offset costs that might have come out of the district's general fund or capital projects. And these things, you know, do move fast, as you all know, and as contractors start looking already into the spring, into the summer, as they start building their schedules, like the sooner we're able to move forward, the better, and the quicker, so we can start getting plans put into place, and really seeing what we can do under this grant for this particular area in the high school.
Okay. So if maybe you can do some digging and then get that to Ryan, and we can chat with Ryan and just follow up and see.
Absolutely.
And then, yeah, we definitely understand the urgency,
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
we don't
and
want
I think we can wait another 30 days. It's just, yeah.
to, okay. Good there?
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yep.
All right, on to item H, hearing of citizens for action items only. Denise, do we have anybody sign up?
We do not.
Thank you. On to I, action items. The consent agenda includes a package of one or more items to be voted on as a unit. However, if any board member is not in favor of one or more agenda items and prefers to take separate action, a request to the chair anytime prior to the vote will remove that item for a separate vote. So let's start with the consent agenda.
Chair Rydell, I move to accept the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Some discussion?
Nope.
All right. Any other discussion from anybody else? Director Johnston?
Nothing here.
Thank you. All right. All in favor, raise your right hand or say aye.
Motion carries.
Item J, the Cisco Alpenrose and United Salad Company.
Chair Rydell, I move to approve Cisco, Alpenrose Dairy, and United Salad Company as the Estacada District food vendor for the school year 2023-2024.
Second?
Moved and seconded, so this is again, last meeting was a lot of the standard things that we need to do every year. This is another one where we have to adopt these vendors. I think we've, in length over the years, talked about the cost and the cost savings of doing this as a cooperative. And again, when you can produce a meal at school cheaper than I can do it at home.
Yes.
That's a win, so that would be my discussion. Any other discussion, or what other discussion? It's an open-ended question.
Well, I'm curious. I have to say something. 2 years ago, when I joined this board, I asked about this, and we were told, I was told, that the state regulates who we buy the food from. So why are we even bringing this up?
Because it's a contract, and the board is required by policy to approve any contract over $50,000. And so from policy perspective, you're right, the state does this. Yeah, yeah. And so in order for us to fulfill policy, you have to approve anything that requires this large of a lump sum, which is the same thing for K too. Yeah.
Okay. Not happy with it, but okay.
Good question. Any other questions or discussion? All right, those in favor, raise your right hand or say aye.
Motion carries.
On
Chair Idell, I move to authorize the Escalade School District to make payment to Pace in the amount of $377,729 for property and casualty insurance for 2023-2024.
Second.
moved and seconded. Another one again, this is the year that we do it, so, yeah, it's the best deal we can get, so.
What
How do we
was
know
our
that?
What was our increase?
20%. Well, actually, we were about 17. The state average was 20.
And maybe you could speak to Director Walper about, I mean, we talked to Flo at Progressive, and,
Yeah.
Oh, you're getting, you know.
So PACE is an organization that all of the school districts in Oregon but 3, Salem Kaiser, Portland Public, is it Eugene? A big one, do not use. And also ESD uses it and community colleges. And what they do is they have a pool that they do so that they're able to provide us cost savings. Plus they have years and years of expertise on our unique school district situations. So when this came out, our agent of record, Brown and Brown, did go out to other agencies and try to get some comparables. The salesmen were very excited and they're like, okay, let's do this. The underwriter said, no way, we can't compete. So at this time, PACE is the only organization that we can afford because we are not self-insuring like those other large school districts.
Okay. I just have a problem with, you know, we just had a 10-minute conversation with Michael on how we're gonna procure things in the future. And I don't mean to beat a dead horse, but it looks to me like we just roll over because the state says, this is where you're gonna get your best deal. There's a lot of insurance companies out there, and
Well, we did go through the procurement process to get our agent of records, our insurance agent. We did that about, last year was our first full year, so we did it in 22. And that's their job to go and shop for the best rates for that, for us. And that's what they did. And PACE is by far the best because of the pool that they have. That they are able to offer all school districts, community colleges, that savings.
what would it cost us to self-insure?
Oh, great question. Yeah.
How can we find that out?
I can contact some of those big school districts and find out what the process is and how to look into that.
Well, like I say, I'm not trying to beat a dead horse. It's just, when people tell me you can't do this, I'm gonna do it. That's just been my philosophy in business all my life. And I have a tough time saying, okay, Mother Oregon says this is the best, and this is what we've got to do.
This isn't mandated by the state of Oregon. We can self-insure, but I don't think, I mean, just anecdotally, we don't have the assets to cover the liability of self-insurance.
But we
need to
don't
verify.
know
We can
that
verify.
until we find out.
Yep, for sure.
You know?
And the additional offerings that we get for PACE is we do get legal representation through OSBA, being part of PACE. There are other trainings that they provide us. And so there are other things that they do on top besides providing us just the liability and property insurance.
we can look into those questions, though,
Yeah.
just to provide you a more suitable answer.
Yeah, I'd
For the
appreciate
record, I am told every day that somebody's gonna sue me, and so that's, it's nice to know that we have a dependable insurance company. Yeah.
Out of curiosity, what was it to replace the high school gym floor?
The gym floor was $600,000 or $700,000 when it was all said and done
No,
with
it wasn't
repairs.
quite that. It was just under 200,000.
Oh, I thought the full deal was,
Yeah, at a cost, at a cost, 200,000, but to the district, it was 10,000,
yeah.
because it was an
Right.
insurance claim.
Oh, our cost,
Yeah,
yeah.
$10,000 deductible for I think when it was all said and done, it was more than that, but yeah.
Will, do you have your question?
Thanks, Mike.
I had the hand raised, but I lowered it. I'm fine. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Director Shibahara, for keeping an eye on the monitor for me.
The monitor.
Monitor.
A monitor.
Okay,
I think, Director Walper, I hear where you're coming from as far as like trying to be fiscally responsible and make sure we, find those places where we can, really make a difference. I do think insurance and food are two expenses that are really difficult to, I could see why that might be difficult for us to save money, where pooling with others, because we are small, would be to a benefit, but, I mean, we don't have the other numbers, but I personally can see why that would be to our advantage, but,
Yes.
or assume that could be to our
but we
advantage.
can get better numbers, right?
Yeah, I mean, we can get what
we
the
can.
other districts are.
Another great example, though, is how we purchase school buses, because when you say yes to a school bus at $125,000, the truth is the school bus costs $200,000+, but when we get a price, we typically go in with either Eugene or Portland Public, who's purchasing like 50 school buses, and that's also a state process, and so, we try to jump in and just swing in on a wholesale cost in an effort to do that. But that's another example. Like, that's why the state says, here are your food things, because when 130 school districts in the state of Oregon say we need 10 billion eggs, like the price of that, because all the consortium is together, and that's what
Yeah.
we're doing.
Yeah, I understand that.
And I
Okay,
want to
okay.
explain, so you know how we're talking that we do the RFP process for the architectural and engineer. The state has done the RFP process, so they have gone and done all the price checking to make sure that Cisco is providing the best rate, the Alpenrose is providing the best rates. So they've done all that work for the year, and they're sharing that, we're piggybacking off that. So that's what it is.
I understand that.
Okay,
Yeah, I got it. Okay.
okay.
But you don't like it.
Yeah. That's
okay.
Yeah, that's
Let
okay.
me tell you,
Yeah.
Mother Stanley and Mother Ingersoll Rand would come in and tell me consistently, we're here to help you.
Yeah.
We're from corporate, we're here to help you. Bull crap,
Yeah.
okay? I could get it for a lot less in this area than they could buy it back east for us,
Yeah.
So, I mean, I just like to double check.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah. Thank you.
I think of it as my responsibility. It's my checkbook,
Yep.
okay? And I want to make sure that I'm doing it correctly.
Best deal.
Yeah.
All right. Any other discussion, questions, comments? No hands are up? Okay, all in favor, raise your right hand.
Aye.
Motion carries.
On to item N, hearing of citizens for non-action items.
We have none.
We have none. With that, item O, adjournment.